Well, first off, before we get into this video, I know I titled it Silver versus God Government, God being in small letters, because, the deal is they're trying to control us. Now, first off, I want to say a little bit about my background because I know sometimes people don't really. I think some people do believe me when I'm saying I'm being sincere on this. I'm more doing it to help people when I'm on YouTube versus just try to, make money. And I don't play the fearmonger angle, but I do recognize a lot of stuff that's been going on. Like I'm over 60 years old. I knew all about the conspiracy scandals, the JFK assassinations, the military-industrial complex, way before the internet was around. I mean, decades before. I knew about um, Senator Guy Gillette's, before Senator Guy Gillette put out his book, None Dare Call It Treason, or whatever it was, about Roosevelt allowing Pearl Harbor to be attacked. I knew about that. I knew about that in the 70s. His book didn't come out to the 80s. I knew about that, actually, from some of the professors in my school. I was actually in Who's Who for scholastic achievement and received a full scholarship to college too. Now I want to tell you, uh, I don't want to just say all this stuff like I'm great, it's kind of crap. But I'm so sick of sometimes hearing these people. I'm a veteran. Yeah, I'm a veteran. But you know what? When I went into the Marine Corps, and this is going to tell you a little bit about me versus these other people that play this game. I already had a college degree in accounting. I was already working for Hearts and Mountain, which they're one of the richest families in the United States, especially in the Northeast, doing construction accounting in the main accounting office, as one of the staff accountants for where we finalized the financials, and I had a good job. And I go in the Marine Corps as enlisted. Could have went in as officer. I stayed enlisted because I figured, I go by that adage, don't call me sir. I work for a living. And some people say thank you for your service, but I wasn't there to try to milk the system for as much as possible. Like I've seen a lot of people in the military do. My ASVAB score was 135, extremely high. You only need a 120 to be an officer. 130 is considered extremely high. Extremely high. I was 135, and I knew my shit in every respect. And I actually wrote articles for sometimes on the base papers about various things on, the draft dodger in chief at the time, President Clinton. And a lot of people in the Marine Corps are very much aware of a lot of shit that went on, even with LBJ at that time. Now, I am aware of all these things, but here I want to actually, I'm going to put out these three little sentences here before I get into the video on silver, because I want you to be aware of these jackasses that are basically, they're not just fearmongers. There's some fearmongers for profit, and there's also fearmongers that are gatekeepers and are disinformation agents and likely working for the conspiracy itself that's against the people. So just want to give you these little tidbits right here. Just think about these things, and it reminds me of Alex Jones to the right to the T, despite the fact that he does come out with some good stuff, but it reminds him right to the T. To incite people to act out of fear through violence, creating an order of chaos situation that plays into the system's agenda. You know what that is, the Hegelian concept. Conflict produces change. When people get out there and protest and get all riled up, you can do a lot of stuff through the system itself, and a lot of stuff by not complying with the system and throwing freaking sand in the system. To lead people into a false paradigm whereby they're unable to see the big picture and they tell them to look for non-existent solutions within the system. So, in other words, you can actually, sometimes they're telling people to do things and it's not the right thing to do. It's like, I don't even want to suggest some of the stuff, because some of the stuff I suggest could be maybe not advertiser friendly or against YouTube policy. But, the No Nation Act, this nation didn't form out of, just talk. I can tell you that right now when it comes right down to it. To break people down and demoralize them with constant fear mongering so they're even more easy to manipulate and deceive. And that's the endless stream of freaking negative news all the time. You'll even see this on the major media. There's an endless stream of negative news, and they'll put out some garbage at the end. It's like huggy feely bullshit, which doesn't mean anything. Um, but that's the damn the modus operandi. Pretty much all the large alternative media out there. I could also say that I recognize that there's criminal elements in our government big time, and Putin's against them. He's against the new the CIA backed things, but Putin's a criminal in himself, right? You know, so just want to get this out of the way because you know we're fighting this new world order garbage here. You got to keep a cool head on it, and you got to be practical. Silver's not your only freaking answer. Actually, some of the things that might be very important to you besides food and firepower and fuel, and other things like beans, bacons, and bullets. One thing that might be a good investment is antique guns, the ones that are made back in the 1800s that are not considered firearms. I mean, whether they're a muzzle loader or whether it's a Civil War artifact, the fact that the damn thing functions and it's a gun, it's probably going to be worth a lot of money and a lot more money in the future. They've been escalating in price. But, it's not actually a joke to freaking try to go up against a lot of this stuff, and it does not take showboating. It actually takes legal finesse. And to me, well, actually, I probably would have made a very good attorney. I know, like when I was working as an accountant, many times I fought like these many legal battles for people that I worked for, and constantly going on, like between, skirmishes over money, basically. And that's really the whole game of everything, because money really is controlling influence of everything out there. Now, our criminal government is really based upon a debt-based system, and whereby it's being funded by debt. It's not even being funded by the taxpayer. The taxpayer's basis could not even fund the government today. It's a joke. As a matter of fact, I could tell you right now that I think without being a doom and gloomer, I already say the end is near, big time for the government, and I don't care what the hell happens to them, because anybody that works for the government today, I consider them pretty much a traitor to the American people. It's become communistic to the max. As far as like where silver's going, silver probably will diverge greatly in price from no matter what they tell you on a spot market, because I think eventually all the electronic systems are going down, and partly that might be due to catastrophes that happen within the system. It could be various ways, but we're probably going to go back to old school, and the old school is just going back to maybe like the 1800s. It doesn't have to be the caveman times, and maybe back to the 1800s before electronics was in our daily lives like it is today, like I'm giving you this information right now. Now, I do like electronics in a lot of ways whereby it can condense, measure, assimilate. In other words, I like electronics in a lot of ways where it actually does something. I don't like electronics just for pure entertainment. I like it where it does something. In other words, if we were going to recreate this Winchester, I think that's an 1892, not an 1873 rifle that the Duke has here. I think that if we were going to recreate this rifle, with our electronics that we got today with CAD/CAM software, we probably could. In that way, I think electronics are good. But in a lot of ways, electronics are being used as a way to control people, keep tabs on people, keep tabs on what they're saying, keep tabs on what they're doing, and to control the money system itself. Actually, the total global system has actually collapsed basically back in 2015. It's already collapsed. The markets have collapsed globally. China's collapsed. Europe's collapsed. The stock markets have not collapsed yet in the United States. Now, I know in the first quarter of 2016, and also the last quarter of 2015 was horrible, but the first quarter of 2016 was way worse. As a matter of fact, they didn't expect it to be that bad because they figured that a lot of the data from the end of the year would shore up the first quarter of 2016, and it really didn't. It's bad. As a matter of fact, way back when we were having good jobs reports, and this last jobs report was bad, and they're trying to say there's bright spots, and I'm like, get the hell out of here. God government is just making up bullshit, and I think they're painting themselves in the corner. Um, you know, it seems almost impossible that they're ever going to come down because they've been going so strong for so long. But I don't think they got. I think they're on their fuses being burned on both sides already with God government, the debt situation, and the fact that they're getting less tax receipts from the people, and the fact that even like they're getting more pressure from the outside from some of the BRIC nations and everything like that. The corporations don't give a rat's ass about people. Like the corporations are basically greedy bastards that run everything. They're corporations just a front, a legal front. Basically, that's what a corporation is: a legal front for criminals that can do things and not be held accountable for their activities because they've done it under the guise of a corporation. That's why they're incorporated in Delaware too, because it gives them more legal protection when they're incorporated in that state. A lot of people don't realize that. As a matter of fact, if you're an S corporation, you'll be what the hell was it in Nevada, incorporated, not incorporated, but registered in Nevada. And if you practice, if your corporation, your S corp is outside that state, then you are a foreign corporation in another state. That's how that works. So you'd have to be registered two places, but that gives you legal protection. A lot of times, these corporations are just a guise to protect crooks. That's all it is. So if they get caught, the corporation's the one that pays the fine, the one that pays the penalty. None of the officers go to jail for anything or pay the fines themselves. It just comes out of profits, and usually nothing happens with them at all. So, but what I have to say about a lot of this is that God government is going down because God government is a tool of the corporations. And, when it comes around, to tell you the truth, what comes around goes around. It's almost as if karma is a bitch and she'll come around and go around and get you in the end. A lot of times the elite are painting themselves in a damn corner. The elite think they got everything freaking figured out, but they don't, man. I can tell you that right now. They always freaking outsmart each other. They always outsmart themselves. That's what it is. They're always beating each other over the head, too. I know that. That's another thing, man. It's kind of funny because I've been around, maybe not the elite, but I've actually seen some of the guys. I did see some information on people that were astronomically wealthy, but not personally worked with them or anything like that. But, I do understand the modus operandi of how everything works. And everything actually is based upon bullshit and faith of the people that are underneath you. Matter of fact, I think, though, that in the situation where we got today, it's coming to a head whereby we are going to see a collapse of the government due to debt default. There's no doubt about this. This $19 trillion is more than just a number. The Saudis are abandoning the OPEC dollar stratagem. That's something else that's going on. I know the Saudis were bringing down the price of oil because that was to break Russia. It wasn't over the freaking shale oil industry. It really wasn't. I went over that at length in another video. It was to break Russia. Russia now is talking like they're going to go back into Syria. And, I know Putin's a thug and he's a dictator, but, he's really no different from the guys that we got on our side either, too, It's one big group going against the other, and they're pushing this guy's back to the wall, which I think it's going to lead to major conflict, at least probably starting in the Middle East around Syria. If that happens, the price of oil is going to go way the hell up. What happened to $20 a barrel oil? Didn't happen, right? Went down to 30. Now it's back up to about 50, or just under 50. Once it goes over 50, you'll probably see a headline on it. But it's been around 49 something for a while. And they're probably keeping it that way because they don't want that headline, oil tops 50. They don't want to do that. The prices are rigged. But what's going to happen, though, here in the future is that once things get rolling, prices of oil, prices of food, everything is going to go up astronomically. And you're going to need silver just to survive. The government's not going to be able to bail people out. The government's not going to have the money. And as a matter of fact, they're probably going to cut on non-essentials that doesn't self-perpetuate the government. The one thing that self-perpetuates the government is the military, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and anything that protects the actual infrastructure of the government. Any money that's being sent out to, like, food assistance, that's not protecting the government. Actually, if they cut that money off, that would actually lead to civil turmoil, which, as I talked about before here, which would lead to that could play into the system's agenda itself. Now, I'm also in this thing when I gave these three sound bites in the beginning, I was talking about the fear mongers on YouTube too. Now, some people say I was a fear monger. I'm not a fear monger. I'm a realist. I realize the situation's bad. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. I can't freaking ignore the situation. But I also realize, there's an old expression way back in the thing, go west, young man. And you know why they did that? To get away from the bullshit. Maybe it was to get away from a screaming bitch back east that you married and you decided, hey, I'm going to go west. I'm divorced and nobody's going to find me. There's no way to trace me. I don't have an SSN. I don't have communications. I'll just get on a horse and I'll ride, And, that's another thing because I got to tell you that a lot of things that are going on even today where the government's taking control, the communists have very much said this even way back when, way over 100 years ago, to give attention to most attention to the women, because through the women they can reshape society. You notice today, women are far different from what they were in 1955. Yeah, there's the same thing with two legs, a vagina, and two tits, and hair and eyes, and whatever makeup. But side, I'm just saying. But as far as like what their goals are, they're totally different. The goals are totally different. Back in the day, and actually, I never could figure out what was so wrong with it till it was propagandized. What was so wrong with it? A woman was like to be a mother, to teach, to instill values, take care of her kids, and take care of the family was very important. Actually, that's an extremely important first function. Now it's like, get on a sports bra and some freaking, Nikes or some shit and try to run around for 25 miles and show how great you are. That's the other way. And one's not actually doing anything. One's actually just, setting times and goals that way, and the other one's actually giving life and instilling values that go on to make leaders and build up the community later on. The one that was back in 1961 was a hell of a lot better than the ones that we got today in 2016. It's the same person. It's the same exact biological specimen there, but it's the goals in the programming in the mind has been totally changed. That has been changed by, well, not per se, but it's government that's doing it, but it's also, the force behind government. But I can tell you one of the biggest problems we all have is always to see women in government. Hillary Clinton would probably be the worst nightmare going. But, in a lot of ways, if that bitch got in, I don't care. I can already see that, a lot of the major media is, like, still pitching for her left and right. And I'm like, I hope when the freaking everything does crash, the jackasses in the government and the major media, they're running around looking for food, and there's a bunch of starving dogs, and the dogs eat them, because I'd be on the side of the dogs, animal rights. You got some useful humans out there. They used to work in the government. They used to write for the major media. They're a food source for you. Go ahead, go for it, dogs. Bow wow 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 wow. Teresa Carey. I could tell you about John Kerry a lot. That guy is such an a-hole. It's beyond belief, man. This guy would be like, I can't believe the people that have to be around this guy, John Kerry. Our Secretary of State, and the other former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. These people are horrendous to work with. As a matter of fact, it's like he'll go off on the stupidest things. You don't hear much about John Kerry. You used to hear a lot about Hillary Clinton. But John Kerry and his wife are really bad news. Pelosi, Janet Reno, the one that burned the kids in the freaking Waco with the fire. To me, it needs to go back to old school. Males have a function and females have a function. You don't want to really, change that around too much. It's not like a dividing line that's, like a big wall, but it's like, sometimes the males use a little bit of the female function, whatever, take care of the family and all that type of stuff, clean the house. But it's like, females don't belong in government. I can tell you that right now. I don't think so. Not at all. Period. That's why I'm looking at this situation with Hillary Clinton. It's been going on for a long time. Like the women are not a lot of women, but a woman will be. There are some women voting for her, even though she's like the most evil bitch going. I personally would never. The more I think about this, the more I think there shouldn't be a female in government. Period. It needs to go back to the old way of the 1800s. I mean, screw all the bullshit all the way back. I'm serious, man. I'm serious as a heart attack. And it might go back to that because when things change, um, if you look at the progression of mankind, yeah, the female had her role, but you know what? If you look at all the shit that was built out here, whether it was the roadways, the infrastructure of the sewage system, the planes that are flying up in the air and who maintains them, yeah, I know there's females that have those jobs, but it's like, hey, you got to have that job. Um, it's like none of this stuff would exist if it was only the females doing a job. There'd be a cave with a curtain on it and maybe some incense candles. That'd be about it. There'd be none of this other shit. So I'm telling you that when the fluff comes down, the electronic markets come down, and the government comes down, what they term today sexism is going to be the norm again, and it's too bad. It's just what it's going to be. As a matter of fact, I think though one of the biggest problems you're going to have is that a lot of people that are in America are so freaking drugged up. They're probably not going to be able to cope with the situation because of all the, I know they call them legal drugs, but it's tropic drugs. The psychiatric profession's been dishing out to kids, like even when they're like 3 years old, from all the for ADHD and all attention deficit disorder and all that kind of crap. And these people are not having these drugs and they say they're being provided by the government, what's going to happen is there's going to be massive freaking disorder in all over the place because a lot of these people are going to flip out. But you know what? A lot of times it's the mothers themselves that have been going along with this. I can tell you right now, I know for a fact that even a lot of young girls have been getting into this, and kids that, in high school and stuff, with Adderall and shit just to get high. They'll tell psychs and school counselors a lot of bullshit so they can get the drugs and just so they can get high, and they'll chop them up and use them in different ways. And when people don't have these drugs anymore, they're going to go through some serious withdrawal symptoms, and there's going to be a lot more problems on society. So, the honest truth is, a lot of stuff is coming down. One thing's going to lead to another, like dominoes. And, the elite might get bit in the ass, and I sure hope they do. And I hope they get bit in the ass literally by a hungry dog and they eat them. Because right now, I don't really give a shit about them at all. But anyway, what's going on even typically in our society, as we seem to break down a society all the way, and here's a good example. What is it exactly you feel? Why is it exactly you feel that it's fine to drug your children? It says because you're a stupid fucking bitch. That's why. Any questions? And that's what's really going on today with a lot of women today. A lot of people are doing this kind of crap and they're screwing up society because of propaganda from snake oil salesmen in the psychotropic industry. This is all freaking factoring in where it's going to come down. It's all shit is falling apart. Am I playing the doom and gloom here? I got to tell you the truth, man. I'm telling you, I'm prefacing what the freaking truth is. I remember a long time ago when our draft dodger in chief was in office. I says, watch that bitch run for office. They were saying in the military, no way in hell. Well, I think she's going to lose. She might even, I don't know, she might even freaking go to jail. I'd fire her out of a cannon, and then after that, I'd set her on fire. That's what I would do. I'd hang her, too. I'd do everything to the bitch. And all of her accomplices. Just her going to prison ain't good enough. I'd get rid of a whole shitload of them. And all the people that kissed her ass, you're fired. You're done. We don't need you. I'm laying it all out here, man. Actually, on one of these videos just before, I put on some stuff about Trump, some of the stuff he couldn't say. And they said it was an advertiser friendly and asked for a manual review. And they said it was not eligible. And you know what? I didn't tell you all the shit I know. I know a lot of stuff, man. I can't tell you all this stuff on here, man. I can't. I could document the crap out of it. I could tell you everything there is out. This guy, even Larry Nichols, too, he talks on Alex Jones about the Clintons. He's a Clinton insider. I knew all about him way back before the internet was around. And one thing I question about him is, how come he's still alive? They got Justice Scalia. How come he's still alive, right? Probably going too far in this because, I got to tell you the truth, man. I got to tell you the truth, So I'll put out some other kind of videos that are more I don't think this is not advertiser friendly, but I already know it's against the freaking paradigm of the freaking the way things are set up. I'm telling too much truth here. But this is why you got silver, because everything else that's considered money today, like money in a traditional sense in your electronic bank accounts, I, you know, I like to know when exactly it's going to happen too. I don't know when exactly, but it's going to crap. It's going to crap. It's dangerous, man. And some of the things that are probably going to be giving you the money in the future is probably anything that actually has true value that can be easily traded. I think actually bullets will freaking probably provide some pretty good money in the future too. Besides like medical supplies, food. If you had extra cans of beans or whatever the hell it is, or cereal boxes or whatever stored up, freeze dried food, I bet you'd be able to sell that pretty good too. That could function as money. But silver's a lot more portable. And silver is the only thing out there that's a precious metal that has a medical use, because you can make colloidal silver with it and disinfect with it. Probably one of your better transportation modes might be motorcycles, because it can be more economical, easier to fix, and also get around in areas like you can't get around with a car. You remember when we had the problem with some of the roads were impassable in California due to the earthquake? Four-wheel drive wasn't good enough there. A motorcycle, actually, the dirt bike was actually even better than that. A chopper, I don't know, maybe a chopper might be okay too, I don't know. But, it's like a motorcycle probably going to be your best bet to have too. That's why I keep my little Harley Sportster. Some people say that's a half a Harley, but you know what? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. It's a 1220 over with cam and shit. But you know what? At least I could push the damn thing 10 miles. If I had a big 600-pound hog and, it got stuck in a ditch someplace, I'd be screwed. The Sporty being a couple hundred pounds less, maybe 450, 150 pounds less, I could probably get it out of an area and keep going. Yeah, that's good enough to go long distances on highways. I'm a practical guy, man. But freaking people, I make my own decisions, man. I mean, some people tell me shit and I listen to them and fine, but basically it comes down to I make my own decision. You should too. So whatever I'm telling you here, even about silver, it's like you make your own decision. You don't need to put the whole freaking farm into silver. I think that's stupid. You should actually put most of your money into excess food and water supply, water purification, medical supplies, versus silver. But some silver can be considered as medical supplies. Probably not as a tax deduction. It should be. But, if you're living in an ideal world. But, if you actually have some silver, you can make a lot of, colloidal silver. That's just a great disinfectant. And you can actually store water much longer, microbe-free a lot longer, even though it could still have toxins in it. Another thing you probably could invest in is an ozone machine, to purify vegetables, foods, and water. You run that ozonator through vegetables, say there's toxins on them or something like that, or there's food you suspect that might have some botulism in it from old cans. Well, you put the food in some water, and you put the ozonator, you run the ozone through it. It's probably a good investment too. Now, I think though what's going to happen though is that we're coming to a point now whereby they're probably going to pull the plug on every damn thing and have a major international crisis in the form of some kind of conflict in the Middle East. I've been thinking this a long time, but it's coming up to this point right now that again, it's been one of these rumors of wars and rumors of wars hasn't been happening. But when I'm looking at the debt situation not being diffused, it just means that the powder keg is growing and growing and growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that when it finally does go off, it's going to be that much worse for the planet. So, and I want to tell you some more things here on it. I probably should put a separate video out on this, but this is something else. The government never sleeps. As a matter of fact, even when we had the Civil War back in 1861 started, or the war between the states, or the War of Northern Aggression, or I like to call it the tax revolt of 1861. Because I know, like a lot of people in the South, they wrote 1776 on their knife blades and their weapons. They figured it was a tax revolt, and a lot of it was over the 250% increase in taxes on the cotton tariff. But I also want to tell you something else about the what happened here is Abe Lincoln did, and this is how the government would work in times of crisis. They had the Revenue Act of 1861 that was signed into law by Abraham Lincoln. That has nothing to do. That's a separate law. It had nothing to do with the cotton tariff, which was why the South seceded. But what it was the first time they had a federal income tax, a direct income tax, and it was a flat tax. I think it was based upon property or something, how much property you had, and it was repealed by the Revenue Act of 1862, and then the flat rate was replaced with a progressive scale on annual incomes beyond $600. Now, that is Karl Marx freaking stuff right there, right to a T. And he used that to fund the war with the South, Abe Lincoln. So, I mean, the stuff that's going on today, it's like, that's why people were moving west. They're getting away from all this crap. They didn't want to bother with it. I mean, once the East got filled up with too much crap, and once even like, the Western North Carolina or whatever got too regulated, they go past the Appalachians, then they go to California with the California gold rush, and then they start filling in the center of the nation just to get away from the garbage. That's what's been going on since day one. We do have too much regulation as things keeps going on here because of slinks. But, the only way that we're probably going to get away from too much regulation today is that the government itself has to collapse. And I think one of the reasons you do invest in silver is because it's not recorded electronically anywhere, period. There's no value on it. But you know what? That's not the only thing you can invest in. As a matter of fact, probably a good investment, too, when I was thinking about food, firepower, and fuel. But you know what might even be more into the category firepower is antique guns. When you're talking about like a Winchester 1873 manufactured actually in 1880. That might be a smart investment, too. Because it's not considered a firearm because it's pre 1899. In other words, it's made prior to it's 1898 or earlier, according to the Federal Firearms Act in 1968. I should talk about that on a separate video because that's another separate subject. That was a Nazi law in 1938 that was introduced in this country, believe it or not, by Senator Dodd of Connecticut actually. There's no bearing whatsoever on the Second Amendment. They introduced that sporting purposes clause and all other bullshit. But as an investment, probably some of these pre-1899 weapons would be smart to get as long as they're functional. They've only been going up in value. And if any more draconian laws come in, you don't know. Even though Donald Trump is talking one way, I mean, this guy, he talked every single way I've ever heard of since he's been around, and I don't know what he's about. I know he's not as bad as Hillary Clinton, but who the hell knows? You don't really know until the guy gets in office, and you don't know what's going to happen anyway with, the nation as far as, any kind of crazy false flags that'll happen that can bring about draconian laws that could even influence Donald Trump. So that would be another good investment. But, the reason you're really investing in silver is because you're not partaking in the system. God government doesn't know what you have. God government doesn't see an electronic sheet that says you have silver. I personally got 2 ounces myself, but 2 ounces is all you need for making colloidal silver, right? And God government doesn't know what you have. That's the point. God government doesn't know what you have. That's why you want silver. You're fighting them because, anytime they see something that you have, they'll try to take it. And that was the case with Abe Lincoln when he was trying to fund the war with the Civil War, his war of northern aggression against the South, because they tried to grab 250% increase on the cotton tariff. The South said no. and they broke away. So he went and said, let's get these people back in. We need them for revenue, preserve the union. Well, he turned out he needed funds to finance the Northern Army. So he passed the Revenue Act. That was very unpopular. Actually, that turned out to be unconstitutional later because it was an income tax. It was a direct income tax, and even though it was unconstitutional, nobody got their money back. Even though years later it was unconstitutional, nobody got their money back. And then we had the 16th Amendment passed in 1913, which established the income tax law we got today, direct income taxation on income, which funds foreign wars and the IMF and all that other garbage. So the less the government knows you have, the better. That's why you have silver. So it is silver versus God government. God government being God, they think they're God in small letters. But you know what? I got no sympathy for anybody who works for the government anymore. No. Like when I was a veteran, maybe, yeah, I didn't jump on any grenades, but, the situation didn't come up, right? I mean, when I was in, I heard that later on, many years later, there was 2 times we were very close to World War III. I didn't know that, but that's what was determined, and I would have been probably whacked for sure because I was overseas, like supposedly on the forward force. So I mean, it's like you don't always have to be dead to prove your worth. That's what I look at it like. And I think when I went in, the fact that I purposely didn't go as an officer because I felt like that's for kiss asses, people that don't work for a living. And I wanted to be somebody that was in, the true Marine Corps. I went in as enlisted. And, hey, I go in as, having a college degree, 135 ASVAB, and already working in the workforce in a highly lucrative position as a staff accountant for Hart's Construction, New Jersey, for the Stern family. So, it's the same reason I'm doing this YouTube. I could be working at the CPA firm. More. I mean, I was there, sometimes. I'm there every week, but I'm not there every day. But, that's the same difference. I'm actually here to help you. And just probably one thing I want to leave you with there is because I had to put the psycho females in here because, you know what? That's one of the biggest. These are the Hillary supporters. And you know what? Even when she loses, these nut jobs are still going to be around. That's going to be the problem. You put a woman in here. I don't give a shit. We don't want a woman in there, you bitch. Clean the floor. Anyway, is that too hot for YouTube? Maybe. I don't know. But you know what? I'm getting sick of this bullshit. But I got to leave you with this because this is the typical freaking, crap that you see the difference information agents put on YouTube, the fear mongers, and there's loads of them, to break people down and demoralize them with constant fear mongering so they're even more easy to manipulate and deceive. So they hit you so much, blah, 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 hey, they're doing this, they're doing that, and not everybody's a dumbass. I was kind of thinking millennials were kind of dumbasses for some of the support they were doing. But I realized there was a 36% swing in the millennials to Trump from Hillary. And I realized it's the 45 and over group from Woodstock, Democratic burned out drug heads that are still supporting her. So maybe the millennials got some of their shit together, which would be alright. But, this is like, I'm not trying to demoralize anybody over here, man. I just look at it when the government falls apart. There's going to be a lot of hungry dogs out there that are strays and they need food. These government jackasses are going to be the food, including the banksters and maybe fitness bimbo over here that runs around. Maybe there'll be a pack of wild hyenas so freaking eat her. Good freaking meat, the hell with you. I don't care, man. I'm probably going overboard in this shit, but I don't give a shit, And so, things work out, man. Karma's a bitch. And get on the back of the bike, bitch, because that's where you belong. So, I probably went overboard in this, whatever. I don't know. I'm going off because I'm sick of this shit, man. I mean, I'm not even trying. I could really tell you a lot more. I wish I could. I wish I could tell you about some of the shit that was going on with the Clintons back when he was in Arkansas. And I said a little bit about it in the other Trump video, and they said not eligible for monetization. I was like, oh, gee, can't tell the truth. Anyway, but I am a straight shooter, man. I'm a straight shooter. And I got lineage back to Confederacy. Three of my ancestors have my last name. I got three of my ancestors back. Also, my direct great 5 great grandfathers and shit. Back to the American Revolution, man. You know, got one who was a ranger in Captain Wise's Rangers, Battle Moultrie. His son was also enlisted when he was 16, and my other great grandfather, whatever the hell he was a captain under General Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox, who fought against the British in South Carolina. Couldn't catch him. He was just called the Swamp Fox. You hear a lot of places called Marion. That's what they're named for. To him, Francis Marion. That's my lineage. And my mother's side, I got the illegitimate son of the Duke, man. So I got some weird shit going on for me. But, you know, that don't mean I'm nothing special. But, you know what? I probably got more lineage than these elite bastards do that claim a lineage. That's no shit. I probably got more. I do. I got more freaking hardcore lineage than these elite bastards that claim lineage. I got more lineage than Bill Clinton. Actually, I'm related to Bill Clinton in a way because he's got the same thing going from Duke Albert Edward, and he's related to him. And George Bush, I go back further than the Bush family. But you know what? I ain't trying to make no big deal out of it, and I ain't no elitist. I can tell you that right now. So I'm just size 7, whatever the hell you want to got my name on here as, you know, because I sleep with my Grendel. 20 rounds in the magazine, and I stay safe. So there you go. That's my update on this deal. I don't know. On the borders of YouTube here, probably not over the borders, but you know, and you know, keep the faith, man, and shoot straight, and don't worry about the bullshit because, you know, bullshit from these freaking jerks in government. You know, I mean, you know, there's stuff about, you know, you light a package of paper on you know, on a doorstep, and it's, you know, you go to stamp it out, and it's got turds in it. That's kind of like what you got to do with them, right? Over and out.